Hello and welcome to The Actor and the Engineer. My name is Paul James. I am the actor.
My name is Josh Knapp. I'm the broadcast engineer.
Here we go, Josh. We got to change the introduction.
Yes?
We got to change it because now it's going to be Paul James, the actor and the director. Because, yes, I know you've known about it for a while, but I am directing a play. I'm co-directing a play. So, and I know you've known about it for a while. Thank you. And it escaped us the last time, and before that there are all these technical things when it's advertised and stuff like that, but now I am free because we started casting yesterday, and we have another casting session tomorrow, auditions tomorrow, and then on Saturday during the day, and it's looking promising. It's interesting to be on the other side,
right?
I kind of like it better.
I would think that you would know what you want, right? Like, do you feel like you kind of have an idea of what you want in a particular, in the particular role or whatever, you know? Like,
yeah, but it's all about the ear. It's all about how it rings true, regardless of whether or not I think somebody is castable or not, or right for the part. There were people who read who are just good, but they're not right for the parts per se. So we're trying to figure it out, and we're trying to bring them back and see if maybe they match them, and so forth and so on. So anyway, I'm directing it with a friend of mine, Heather Miles. She is the person who has pretty much facilitated everything in the last couple of years with me. She's the one who introduced me to the director of Lewiston, her husband to be, Les Harper, sent me the notification of Meteor Shower. So they have been an integral part of my theater experience, and they run their own theater. It's called BLT, Broken Leg Theater. Clever. Yeah, it's clever. Cool. And it's primarily a children's theater, community theater. And it's really smart. It's a way to get young people involved in the theater. And I've seen a couple of their productions, and the parents and the meemaws and the papas and all of the aunts and uncles and cousins and sisters and brothers have to come and see Jen in the play. And so it's packed all the time. And I think it was last year they did their first all adult grown-up production, not adult as in the connotation that might have. They did
not as in XXX adult.
No, yeah. Can you imagine? After all this time, I finally find my artistic gloves in the porno industry. That, knowing my luck. Anyway, I digress. So she invited me to come and direct this play. At first it was Clue, and we were having trouble getting the rights. And I was like, I don't really know what to do with this. I guess I'll just go with the flow and see what happens. I started getting ideas. I started reading, and we couldn't get the rights. And she called me and she said, we have an alternative, a second choice, Arsenic and Old Lace. And I said, yes, that's the very first play I was ever in. And she said, that's the very first play I was ever in. And I was like, well, I think serendipity is telling us this should be the very first play that we co-direct. So it's going to be fun. It's screwball comedy, farcical comedy.
I love it. I just rewatched the Cary Grant version, and oh my gosh, it's so good.
It's fascinating how different it is from the actual play. And it's fascinating how all of that's there in the play, but how they rearranged things and how they incorporated certain things to adjust to other certain things. It's fascinating to me. It was fun to watch.
They tack stuff on at the beginning, and they don't really need to. I mean, you can kind of glean that stuff, whether there's like a beginning scene in the marriage office or whatever, city hall or whatever at the beginning. You could glean that from the movie or from the play without having to stretch that out like they do. But once they get into the house, that's all that matters.
Yeah, once they're in the house and once the brother shows up, Jonathan, and once it's a funny, clever script. And you're right, the scene that some people worked on last night, all of that information that you're talking about in the first scene of the movie is in the one scene. It's all exposition in the play with intention. Both characters have an intention behind what they're doing. So yeah, I'm excited. It was fun to sit on the other side. It was exciting and not nerve-wracking at all, which is unusual for my theater experiences. So I just tried to bring that to the people who were trying their best, and it was fascinating to watch. It was also fascinating to watch when you give somebody an adjustment and just two simple things, a verb and a lower register of a voice, and it just took off. And I was like, yep, okay, I don't know what else is going to happen.
I'm interested to see how you adapt to this, because I would kind of compare it to, like, in sculpting, you have to start with something and then you can make it into something else. Whereas in painting, you're just like starting from scratch. You know, you literally have a blank canvas. So in some ways with acting, you kind of do start with a blank canvas. I know you've got the script and all that stuff, and you've got the intentions and all that, but it's kind of a blank canvas, and you can't really even do anything with it unless you stand it up and make something happen. But that's why it would be not daunting, but it's a lot for directing, because you're doing that for everything. Like you said, set, incorporation of music, costumes, all that stuff.
And we're in a modern world, so all of that's email, Dropboxes, Google. And I was like, okay, you guys are going to have to go a little slowly, see the gray hair. But that's why I think I have a little bit more of an advantage than some people might in this circumstances, because one, I've never directed anything before, but I'm co-directing, and Heather has directed quite a few different things. And so my creative ideas, she's in tune to, but the technical things, there was some lighting issues last night. I was like, what about this, this, and this? And I can only tell them what I think I need and what I see, what they can do. We had a production meeting, which is odd to even say. And the person building the set was like, well, we want to do a realistic set unless you want to do like a modern day take off of just like, and I was like, if you're going to build it, I will come. I will be there. If you build it, I will come. So if you're going to say yes to a practical set, I'm not going to say no to that. I want it to look as real as possible. So I have a fallback because I have a co-director, but at the same time, there's challenges with that too, because you have to combine your ideas and you have to compromise. And that is something really good for my personality, because I compromise. It's just, I always end up getting what I want anyway. So, I mean, you know, so.
Well, you know, and it's funny because I just watched a Coen Brothers movie, but it wasn't both Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
I just watched Drive-Away Dolls. And Ethan Coen directed it, co-wrote it with his wife of 30 years. And it's got all kinds of issues. And I'm not saying that the Coen brothers have to work together, because we talked about The Tragedy of Macbeth, and that was Joel Coen by himself. But like, it just seemed like I was going into it being like, this is a Coen movie, but I had to renegotiate, and I had to figure out where they were coming from, they as the writers and he as the director. And it didn't have the same guts that a lot of the other previous Coen brothers movies have had. And so I'm not saying that to, like, you know, drag Ethan Coen. I'm just saying that, like, he worked in a way with his brother, and they worked repeatedly, in my opinion, very well together. And now that he's on his own and he's making his own decisions without having to share that burden and share that responsibility, and also share those decisions, then maybe, you know, maybe he's flailing or he's moving in a direction that I'm not really as interested in. So
if you had seen that film not knowing it was one of the Coen brothers, would you have known just by the film that it was one and not both of them?
No, there were some scenes that were the lighting was pretty cool in it, but then it was mainly plot related, and it was mainly,
isn't it,
you know,
always?
just, it's relationship related. It's kind of like, you didn't earn this. There was multiple times where I'm sitting there saying, like, you didn't, like, I'm totally fine with where you're going with this, but you didn't earn it. Like, you didn't spend the time to earn it.
I'm pressing the record button to use that line throughout the rest of our podcast when it comes to Gladiator 2.
Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, anyway, thank you for indulging me and let me let that news out. It's gonna be fascinating. Creative juices are flowing, and Christmas is coming, and there's a lot of other things going on that we'll talk about after the podcast that are all good. So, you know, I got my little director's tweed coat that I bought at the thrift store years ago for 99 cents. I mean, it's ratted and tatted, but, you know, everybody says I look like a director when I wear it, so I wore it last night.
But you need those big pants, like the big wide pants, and then the whipping crop or whatever it is. Haven't you seen? You know, and then like
no
the hat.
and
Oh,
no. Figuratively, I am already wearing those pants, and I already have the crop in my hand. But no, I will not literally do that. I thought you were going to say patches, and I was going to show you how this is how tatted this thing is.
Oh man, well then you've lived in it. Yeah,
I love it. It's funny because eventually the sleeve or something will fall off, because I've had these throughout the years. It just suits me, you know. It's just one of those things that suits me, and I feel it. People say it, so but it literally has to have something fall off of it in order for me to go, okay, I got to get another one. So you know, maybe I'll patch them up and be the English teacher / director for this. But anyway, so onwards and upwards.
The exact opposite of that is the production design of Gladiator 2, because like they spared no expense. Like, I mean, I thought that it looked good. I mean,
Me too.
And I would say the production design is one of the highlights. And the costume, it looks very good as far as that's concerned. But yeah, you're right. It's kind of, there's a lot going on in that movie. And it's 2.5 hours long, and I didn't feel like they spent enough time on certain things, and somehow it was still 2.5 hours long. I don't know where the time went. It's crazy, because I was actually like, parts of it I was kind of like nodding off, but I did see it at 9 p.m. last night, so that's also partially my fault. But at the same time, I saw Strange Darling at 9 p.m., so I did nod off in that movie.
Good. We're on the same page here.
Yeah, I was here for Denzel Washington, and his performance was way over the top, and it didn't actually fit in this movie, but it was probably the most fun part of the movie. So I like that.
Super interesting that all three of those components that you mentioned, production design, costumes. I loved the Roman guards with the deep purple mohawk fuzzy things, brushes, whatever they're called. It's a bunch of ignorant people who don't know words like me. I'm dumb. I can't figure out. I don't know what those are called. Anyway,
the Praetorian Guard. I know they're called the Praetorian Guard, but
what
I don't
are
know
the brushes that they wear?
I have no idea.
Purple brushes. I love the richness of the colors. I love the cinematography, how it was kind of muted and glossy all at the same time. There are a lot of things about this film that are interesting and have value. And you knocked off the top three right off. And as for Denzel Washington, I couldn't agree 100% more that he's in a different movie, and he's doing things that I'm not sure that's what's supposed to be happening with that character, but they're so intentionally over the top and so intentionally direct that you cannot. Bold choices. We've talked about this a million times. When he laughs at that guy, when he's saying hello to that guy, when he's coming back in after he finds Paul Mescal, and he's coming in to talk to the guy about bringing them into the Gladiator arena, and he's like, ha ha, and he handshakes him, and he does that Denzel Washington, Malcolm X laugh that he does. He does it in a different way in this movie. And I kept thinking to myself the whole entire time, a couple of things. I wish this movie was about him. I wish this movie was about this character. Now, it could probably be called Gladiator 2, because that's not what this movie was supposed to be about. But it's also interesting that you said you were nodding off, because in the first 20 minutes of this film, I kept drifting away. And I thought, well, wait a second. Is the cell phone generation, has it got me? Can I not? I actually love not looking at my phone for 2.5 hours. I love having a reason to not pick up my phone. I love looking at my phone, but it was nice. And I kept thinking, is it the length? What is it? But I had just seen Wicked 4 days before that. And that movie's 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I was engaged the whole entire time. It's one of the best of the year. It's a triumph. It's just great. And I
wasn't actually, I've not seen it in the theater or anything like that. I don't know any of the songs.
Me either.
Defying Gravity. I know that it's the song, but I was not even really like, it wasn't on my, in the cards, but I guess, I mean, if it got Golden Globes and it's probably going to get Academy Award nominations, then I'll see it. But,
and I will state this now. Ariana Grande will be an Oscar nominee. She is
Cool.
fantastic. She blew, and we've talked about Cynthia Erivo, not to brush over her, but we've talked about her as an actress before.
Yes.
And a singer. Bad Times at El Royale. She was in that miniseries, The Outsider, Stephen King. I just rewatched it. She's fantastic. She takes a character that is well known in the Stephen King world and just turns it in a way that I wasn't expecting. I read that book and I was like, I don't really remember this character like this. I don't remember it. And then I started to remember the things that the character had to do for the plot. And I was like, it's the character, but this is not better, but just different in a better way. So love her. I hope she gets an Oscar nomination, but that Best Actress field is tight this year. I mean, we're looking at Pamela Anderson being an Oscar nominee. And I haven't seen the movie, The Last Showgirl. I've seen the trailer and it broke my heart. And I was like, okay, it's just proof positive that everybody can bash, everybody can talk about the commercialization of Hollywood, but when a performance is warranted of a conversation, the Academy picks it up. And it doesn't matter that Brendan Fraser was George of the Jungle. It only mattered that he did what he did in The Whale. And this is how it's looking for this Best Actress category. And it's tight. Ariana Grande, whole nother conversation. Speaking of which, back to Gladiator 2, Denzel Washington is probably going to get another Oscar nomination. And I'm all about it.
No, for this?
Yeah. He's already been. Yeah. Have you
All right.
met? Hi, Paul James.
No, but
nice to meet you. We've
no,
met,
I
right?
know you're probably right. I'm saying, I'm voicing my opinion.
He says.
I'm voicing my opinion. I
feel you.
There's so many, Steph and I just watched Unstoppable. Never seen it before. The train movie with Chris Pine.
I liked it.
Yeah, me too. And it was fine. And, it did what you wouldn't, speaking of a Scott brother, it was Tony Scott. I think that was his last movie. But I mean, it did what it was supposed to do. That's actually a movie that earns whatever it is going for. It's like it enters into a contract with the audience and it delivers on that contract. You can't fault a movie for that. And in fact, you need to praise a movie for that. Whereas in this movie, it's kind of like, and they don't do themselves any service by the title sequence, which is very well done. That kind of like oil painting brush stroke, going over essentially the whole movie of Gladiator, which is a very smart thing to do, but it also pushes Gladiator in your face and says, hey, remember this? Remember this movie that came out 24 years ago that was awesome, that everybody loved? And it's like, hey, remember this? Now watch this. That's a bold move. You better deliver on that. And I didn't feel like it did.
What I digressed into, just to get the Wicked stuff into the conversation and just to pronounce Ariana Grande's possible Oscar nomination, because she just blew me away, was that this movie, in the first 20 minutes, I was like, wait, okay, so he's wife, battle, Pedro Pascal, what? And I would drift away. And I was like, oh, I have to literally force myself back to watching it. And I do have to say, I texted you. I was in the movie theater by myself. It was 9:00. I have a nighttime job, so my life is different than yours. I had a great workout, so I had popcorn and a soda. I never do that. So I'm in my happy place. I have the close to the center row because there's nobody there, so I don't stay to the side. I was to the side until I realized I was going to be by myself. This is Mecca. This is an experience that was made for me. And 20 minutes, I was like, wait, what? Oh, what? I couldn't follow it. I couldn't figure out, is it me and I'm not paying attention? Is it not engaging me to force me to pay attention, which I don't mind that a movie does that. There's the substance. It smacks you around to where you have to pay attention to it. And that's a compliment. So I didn't understand the relationships. I didn't understand Paul Mescal's character. I didn't understand Pedro Pascal's character. I kept thinking to myself, and this is where I would start to drift off, because I started thinking, how long has this script been written? Was this written with these characters and then they cast these newly famous people, or did they interject these characters to get Pedro Pascal into this movie? I have no problem with him in this movie. I have no problem with him. I love him, as a matter of fact. We've talked about him a million times. I thought he should have won the Emmy. yada yada. But something about he didn't look right for the movie. He seemed out of place. Same with Paul Mescal.
So what about his character then? I mean, is it his character, what didn't make sense, or there was a reveal? I'm not going to do on any spoilers, but there's a reveal. If you even just read IMDb, there's a spoiler in there.
It gives it away. His character's name gives it away on IMDb.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
So you have to be,
that's what I mean. Yeah. You have to really, and I didn't know I like literally went in this movie knowing nothing about it. I didn't even revisit Gladiator. I was telling the guys at work today, I was like, I've probably seen certain scenes in Gladiator more than a lot of other movies because I used that DVD when I was selling home theaters and I was like worked at a high-end home theater store, and I would use that DVD. There were like certain arena scenes and there's surround sound, and it's just
Smart.
huge. And I mean, it was great score, great sound design on the original one. So yes, I've seen Gladiator a lot, but I haven't like sat down and watched the whole movie a bunch. So, and it's been a long time.
I feel like it's, you don't need to, because this movie is separate, although it tries to connect. And that's my issue later on in the film is, I have many issues. There are many good things happening in this film. Are you not entertained? I wasn't, because, I wasn't. I would love to say that I was, and I'm not going to sit here and talk about all the great things about a movie that lit me up, and Stranger Darlings, Honora, you name it. They lit me up. And so if I can be honest about the good things, I have to be honest about the things that didn't really work for me. And all they did was pose more questions, because I was like, wait, okay, so Paul Mescal lives in an African tribal community. Wait, what? Because there was a little bit of minor controversy that Russell Crowe was playing a Spaniard.
Spain wasn't even a thing back then, though.
Right.
There was no Spain.
Yeah, and they do a lot of that because I've done some research on this film too. The country that they take over, that Pedro Pascal takes over in the beginning, and his wife dies. Paul Mescal. His wife dies, which is the catalyst for everything that happens. Rome had conquered that area 250 years before this movie took place. So it's all, I don't have a problem with any of that.
But there's just the mirroring of like, Russell Crowe lost his wife. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Paul Mescal lost his wife.
Well, at first I was like, are they playing this guy off as an African? There's no way they're doing this, because there was a problem with what people perceived a Spaniard would look like with Russell Crowe. So I was like, really? Are they double downing on this? Wow. How are they going to explain this? And then of course you find out later on, he's a refugee, which was impossible to follow, impossible to figure out. And then the biggest discrepancy I have, or the biggest issue I have, is it's a movie that tricks you into believing one thing and then takes it all back later on. Pedro Pascal, it's this movie, right?
That's correct.
It's the movie. Pedro Pascal, you think he's one person, and then all of a sudden, an hour into it, he's another person, and his intentions in the original part of the film are different than the intentions in the second part of the film. And then the same with Paul Mescal. You're like, is he a slave? What is he? And then all of a sudden, you're supposed to be tricked into believing that this is the kid from the original movie.
Spoilers.
It's in the description, so
okay.
I'm sorry. I did it again. I haven't done it in a while, people.
That's okay.
But the original actor is still alive, and he's of this age, and he's a good actor. So why not use that?
Oh, the Lucius character,
the actor. I had it up on Wikipedia. I just turned it.
They couldn't hang that on. You need a name for a movie like that. I mean, the budget's too big. You need a name.
But honestly, name something that Paul Mescal has done, and I love him.
He's got what's the thing the kids say now? Riz. He's got
what?
Riz. It's like charisma, but like he's a name in certain circles, and so you can use that to kind of, leapfrog. You got the Pedro Pascal, you've got the Paul Mescal, you got the Joseph Quinn playing the, who people have seen with a mullet in Stranger Things. And you've got, And we just talked about him, and he did a great job in A Quiet Place Day One. So, I mean, that all is, those are the names they're hanging this on top of Denzel Washington, obviously. You know, there's people who are going to go to a Denzel Washington movie, whether Denzel Washington is the lead or not. So you've got that too. And I would say I'm one of them. But then there's people who are looking for like, ooh, what's Paul Mescal doing next or whatever, you know. I think that's really, that's truly a thing. And so you can, it's in a lot of ways it's similar to what Marvel used to do, where they would get somebody on their ascendancy and be like, well, they've been in a couple movies, now we're gonna make them Hawkeye, whatever, now we're gonna make them Thor. You know, Chris Hemsworth played, you know,
Jeremy Renner
Kirk's
was a two-time
dad.
Academy Award nominee at that point. So the street cred's a little bit.
Really? When he was Hawkeye?
Hurt Locker and The Town.
Hurt Locker maybe, and in The Town. Okay, I was thinking of American Hustle, because didn't he get something for that?
No, he's one of the only ones who wasn't nominated. It's one of the two David O. Russell films that have all four of the acting nominations that year. And nobody won Silver Linings Playbook, Jennifer Lawrence won. Yeah. So she won it. But okay, so I understand that. I don't have a problem per se with that. I just think that when you have I almost called him Eddie Munster, Joseph Quinn, and you have that's his character from Stranger Things, and you have Denzel Washington, and you have Wonder Woman's mother coming back, and you have Derek Jacobi coming back. Who's
60 years old, by the way.
She's great.
She looks amazing.
She's ridiculous.
She's solid. Like,
I was
like, wait, isn't that the same woman from the first movie? And they're like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's almost unnerving, because you're like, wait, she can't have an adult son. Like, that's weird. It's weird because she looks so good. Mm-hmm. And she's solid. And so you have all these actors. So why not give it to an actor who is an unknown, and then you build the character versus, I'm not saying this is what Hollywood does, and I'm not saying Hollywood should follow this formula, but when it falls apart and it doesn't work with the idea that you're putting an up and coming person who has a name sort of at this point. I mean, he's kind of known. Why not just cast the original guy? And the original guy was Spencer Treat Clark. And if you look at him, you'll recognize him from a lot of things. He's done quite a bit of work since then. He's not bad. He's very good, actually. So the point is that all of what we're talking about is that the narrative and the plot and the storyline, all of which are the same word basically, are so convoluted and so, wait, we're where now, and who's doing what now, and wait, what? And then they do the thing that I will never understand about CGI. I will never understand creating a monkey that doesn't look like anything in nature on any level. It didn't bother you?
Nope.
I thought for sure that was going to nag the hell out of you.
Actually, there was a part in there in the middle of their fight where I forgot that it was CGI.
Wow. Okay. Well,
yep.
Well, you're the man. So
I mean, that's my opinion. That's not, I mean, that's.
Well, it gives me a perspective to look at it differently. But we know what baboons look like. So just make a baboon. Just do a CGI baboon. Why does it have to look like this futuristic alien baboon thing?
Well, I think it would be more like a you know, not futuristic, but more like a what do we want to ancient animal that's not in our world now, like something that was bred back then and then it wasn't, you know, bred anymore. Whatever it is, pugs used to have long noses, now they have squished noses because we've bred them that way. Similarly, there may have been something where these baboons were bred to have longer teeth or whatever, you know. That's kind of what I got from it. It didn't actually, so I was like, okay, they're trying something. I was like, all right, that's good, they're trying something. And then also the fact that the motion of the animal and the interaction with Paul Mescal looked like I said, it looked natural enough to me where I forgot that it
okay.
was. It didn't look like he was going like, "Oh,
Yeah.
get this
Yeah.
tennis ball away from me." Like it
Yeah.
wasn't that, and so I appreciated that. So that was good.
Okay.
And the
fair
sharks
enough.
actually were fun. Like the whole like thing about like I went into that. I knew that there was gonna be like there's so many logistical problems with that. I just can't understand how they would be able to seal
But it
the
happened.
Coliseum.
No, it
I
happened.
guess.
That's factual. But the difference is huge. They were able to seal it. I don't know how well, because I've been thinking about that. Like how tight do they have to make the stone? There were aqueducts that brought the water in. That's all factually correct. But they only flooded it about 2.5, 3 feet deep. And so the boats were much smaller than what you're seeing in the movie and flat. And so if somebody fell out, they would just stand up.
Yeah.
Or whatever. The thing about the sharks that got me is that it's not the sharks, it's not the water battle. You started the movie with a water battle. So you've already given us something on water. Now we're supposed to be completely blown away by the fact that they're doing it inside the Coliseum. So they kind of dulled the edges of that excitement for me because we had already seen a battle on the seas, or at least the beginning of that battle. No, pretty much that battle. And all the stuff with the way that they had that plank that went up against the wall and all that
Which
stuff.
was cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I mean, you know, the water, the ships, the lighting, it just didn't look real at the beginning. And then once we got into the Coliseum and the two ships and stuff, it was fake anyway. So I was kind of like, all right, that's fine. What are they going to do? How are his people going to beat their people? You know, essentially it's kind of like, it's a replica of some of the battles that they had in, they're the underdogs in that scenario. And they somehow were able to beat the other side. So that was okay.
Because they're in a Gladiator movie and that's what happens. Stick
Yeah.
together. The thing that I did like about the approach to the battle in the Coliseum, the water battle, was that you see him working out. You see them working out, and then he is punished by having to continue to do it, and that's his punishment with that guy. Also, that guy's character was weird. Like, were we supposed to like him, and then all of a sudden, when he turns, we're supposed to feel vindicated when he gets killed? Spoiler alert. It's just like, okay, pick one. Bad, good, validated that he's gone. One or the other.
It's character development, and we keep coming back to, we aren't getting enough character development really on any of the characters. I mean, it's maybe on the mom, like on Lucius's mom, because we have already seen a portion of her character and like what she stands in. But I don't necessarily need a lot of character development for the two emperors.
Twins.
Yeah, I don't need that necessarily, but it would have been nice to get a little bit more character development from Denzel Washington's character, and then obviously from Paul Mescal's character earlier on. I don't think you're really like saving a reveal by delaying it until an hour and a half into the movie. I don't think you're really saving anything for that, and you give yourself less time to really flesh out that character. And then it just seemed it seemed like it was half baked. Yeah.
Well, that's part of what I was saying earlier, that you think he's on a revenge tour. You think he's revenging his wife's death. You think that that's why what his motivation is, which is what Russell Crowe's motivation was. And then all of a sudden it becomes this thing. And then he doesn't want to have anything to do with his mother. He knows that she's who she is. You see that scene where he's looking at her. At first you don't know why he's looking at her, and then eventually you do find out, and then he's like, I don't want a thing to do with you. And then they're hugging 20 minutes later. It was just...
It's too fast.
It's too much. And there's lines in there about how Denzel got there, but it was confusing, and it was in weird places where, why are we learning about this now?
Yeah, it was so far gone in the movie where you're like, he's already been established as the bad guy. And so like it would have been more interesting for me to have a sympathetic bad guy, a somewhat sympathetic bad guy early on. Give me the motivations. Why is Darth Vader the way that he is? You know, give me a little bit. You don't have to give me the whole thing. I don't need to know about midichlorians, but tell me a little bit about what happened early on in his life, and that's all I need. But it was too little too late for Denzel's character. So
yeah, I'm a bit surprised about the monkeys, and I'm a bit surprised about the sharks, because I thought, oh, Josh is going to hate this.
I'm grasping at straws here, man. I mean,
got you.
I really
that's
am.
Totally fair. I'm not bagging on you. I'm just saying that when I saw it, the only interesting thing was what I thought you were going to say about it when I was watching it. So maybe it's one of those movies where it'll become that fun Saturday raining movie. It's raining outside. You got nothing better to do. Let's watch Gladiator 2 again. And then maybe it will click in certain ways, and I will understand it better in certain ways after seeing it a second time. But that said, there are 1,000 different things I would rather watch on a rainy day unless this is the only movie that's accessible to me at this point in time.
Yeah. Oof. Wow. That is actually pretty cutting. Now that I'm like listening to that in my head again, do you say that? I was like, oh, that's rough. You're like, I would much rather watch anything else.
That's not what I said. You put words in my mouth.
Yeah.
It's bad enough. I love this director. I love these actors. I love the idea of an epic historical film. Or based on a past time. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's historically accurate. I don't care if I understand the motivations of everybody. I don't care if the two twins are just bad, just be bad. Just like Joaquin Phoenix was just an evil guy. Yeah. And then later on in the film, and I have a feeling we're going to wrap this up a little bit earlier than we normally do, but that's fine. I have one question. Were they alluding to the fact that Russell Crowe was this kid's father? What was that all about?
No?
Okay. They were?
Yeah.
So when did he sleep with the mother?
Well, he kisses her at some point, but he probably like slept with her like way before, I guess. I mean, however many years before, 10 years before. That's what I got out of it.
When he was Richard Harris's right-hand man.
Because
that's
general.
Richard Harris's daughter.
Essentially, Maximus in the first movie. Russell Crowe in the first movie is Pedro Pascal in the second movie, and there's very similar things where Russell Crowe goes out. That's the scenes that I remember from Gladiator. That first scene in like Germany or like Germania or wherever he was, like where he's wearing that big, huge, like whatever wolfskin coat or whatever, and they just like lay waste to those guys, and it's just a crazy, amazing battle. Like there, I didn't feel any of that. I didn't get any of that. Even the battle at the beginning, it was frenetic, but I didn't get this like epic feel out of it. So he is so Russell Crowe is the general for Marcus Aurelius. He goes back, and then Marcus Aurelius wants him to be the new emperor. Similarly, Pedro Pascal's character, General Acacius, is a general for the emperors, but then they're gonna try to establish him as the new emperor because the current emperor twins are a bit in left field. They're kind of doing whatever they want, and they don't really care about the people, and they want to bring it back to the people, just like Marcus Aurelius wanted Russell Crowe's character Maximus to bring it back to the people. So that's like a 1-for-1. As far as Maximus being the dad of Paul Mescal, I'm pretty sure that's what Connie Nielsen said. That's what her character said.
In the first film?
No, in this film.
Okay.
Your father, Maximus, da-da-da-da-da.
Okay. Yeah. By that point, I thought I was crazy. Like, literally, I thought, am I making things up in my head to make this something for me?
She was single, like, in that.
So who do they say is his father in the first film? Somebody who dies, right? Obviously, the father's not in the first film.
The father's not in the first film. I don't know. I'm not really sure who they say.
So let me get this straight. So he's
cheating on his wife with her.
Well, he might have been dead by then. No.
Yeah, see, he finds her dead, and then he gets brought into the like gladiator. He gets arrested and then becomes a gladiator.
Yeah. So let me get this straight. So Paul Mescal's character is a migrant person who went from one place to the next to escape possible death because he was next in line to be the emperor, and she sends him off. And so he ends up in a bunch of different places and learns all these skills. That's how he's like able to do all the things that he's done. That's how he's trained and stuff like that. That's how he is able to be combative. Then he is now adopted by this one nation that is infiltrated by Rome. His wife is killed. They take him as a slave. He becomes a slave / gladiator. Then he doesn't like his mother, doesn't want to admit that he's his mother, then is his mother. They reconnect, and then we find out his father was Russell Crowe. Come on.
It's a lot.
I mean, it's just...
That's what I got from it. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but
no, I got that too, but I literally thought I'm making something up because I'm not following something. I'm not able to understand. I did enjoy the scenes of remembering Russell Crowe when Paul Mescal was like, I met him once. He was nice. I liked that. I liked the delivery. I liked the way that it was handled. You instantaneously remember him coming to his cell, Lucius or whatever his name is.
And he talks to him about the like horses on his,
on the thing. Which when he goes to put that on, I was like,
here we go.
They didn't earn it is the best proper way to put it. They
true.
did not earn it. And then he only has the front guard on. He doesn't have anything on his arms and shoulders. So
that's right. Because didn't he have like a thing on his shoulder, like the little epaulets or something on the shoulder?
Well, he also had those metal things on his arms too. You see him on the wall.
Gotcha.
You see him on the wall next to the chest plate. And so they were trying to give Paul Mescal a different look, but the same look. And it made a lot of money.
That is good. I mean, it's good for movie theaters. It really is. I mean, like this, Wicked, it's like that is good for movie theaters. Like it gets these big companies who are barely willing to spend money on theatrical releases to at least be like, oh, look, like we can still make money. So that's good. All right, let's have a little Napoleon corner. Have you seen Napoleon? Okay, that's Ridley Scott. Historical epic with someone he's worked with in the past, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't sure if you'd seen that or not because that just came out like a year and a half ago or whatever. So I watched it and I mean, it's okay. The CGI is actually pretty good in that movie. And I think that it is overlong and it is interesting in what they're trying to do. They're trying to explore different corners of Napoleon, I think. But yeah, and the performances are pretty good too. Vanessa Kirby.
Oh yeah.
Is in that. She plays his mistress, wife, Josephine, I think.
Okay.
Plays his wife. She's really good in that. But yeah, I didn't know if you'd seen it or not. But that would have given me a little bit of a temperature on what you felt about Ridley Scott. And we just talked about Thelma and Louise. And I mean, I thought that was great. That's the last Ridley Scott movie I saw. So
I love Ridley Scott. I love all of the movies that most people don't know about. We've talked about Matchstick Men before.
Yes.
We've talked about a bunch of different things that he's done. I like him. I like his style. I like his brother's style. I like everything about what they bring to the movies. Didn't he do Black Hawk Down also? I believe he did. That's excellent. And just for an interesting thing, when you were just talking about Napoleon, for a split second, I got lost and I thought you were still talking about Gladiator 2 because everything you said about Gladiator 2 is essentially what you said about Napoleon. So it's good that you're looking for the positive. It's good. And, I don't like to bag on things because we talked about this a million times. We don't do anything. We just pay our ticket price, which is part of the deal. They can't do it without us. And, but we didn't make any effort to make that movie. So maybe I should have lightly, what's the line? Go lightly down your darkened ways. Maybe I should have stepped a little bit lighter. And I hope I didn't embarrass myself by being one of those guys who's just a hater. But I just have so many questions about why they do the things that they do. And in the end, I'm easy. Like I love a lot of things that people are like, what? I'm pretty easygoing. I when it comes to believability and stuff like that. That said, I'll leave this on a positive note for myself. There were times when the actors and the story and their choices pulled me back in and made me go, oh, okay, this is why I'm here. The scene with Connie Nielsen and Paul Mescal that we've just talked about a couple of times. The scene with Pedro Pascal and Connie Nielsen when they're planning together. The scene when they get found out. All pulled me back in. So there's stuff there there's stuff of value in this film.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's like we started off talking about, like, it's a very beautiful movie to see and to experience as far as the set design and the costumes and stuff. I think those were great. And like the whole, even like the CGI set extensions, I'm sure that they weren't on the outskirts of Rome with the gate with the Romulus and Remus and all that stuff. I mean, I know that was a lot of, there's a lot of CGI heavy lifting to make those epic landscapes, but I thought it looked great too. So I think everybody on the technical side did a great job too. All right. Well, you can check us out on the web at actorandengineer.com. You can go to facebook.com/actorandengineer. We're on X at Actor Engineer, and you can search for us on YouTube. Just search for the Actor and the Engineer podcast. We'll see you next time.